The Watchers is the latest horror film to hit theatres, and it's directed by Shana Shyamalan, M. Night's daughter. The story centres on a young artist called Mina. She ends up stranded in the extensive forest of rural Ireland and ends up trapped alongside three strangers, Ciara, Madeline and Daniel. It would appear that mysterious creatures are stalking them each night, watching the group from afar behind the mirrored glass inside the bunker they're keeping as refuge. With strict rules to follow and a lot of cracks in the mythos, Mina starts to doubt the validity of everything she's come to learn. The Watchers are things of lore and go by many names like changelings or fairies. They watch so they can study and become us, like mimics. According to Madeline, humans are their playthings, and that's why they'll never be allowed to leave the forest. Apparently the forest is also prone to cause hallucinations, and there's even a point of no return too, dotted around the woods in a circle. If they stay within the confines, there's a chance of making it back. If they don't, well, they probably won't. The Watchers themselves are tall, thin creatures that patrol the forest. They rise up to around 9 feet tall and are both menacing and bloodthirsty. Despite initial reservations in the first half of the film, we find out that they're definitely real and exist in the world. They're fascinated by humans and have been watching them all this time. Madeline came to the woods on her own volition because she wanted to and knew what was inside the woods. She saw the Watchers firsthand and hunted on her own. She saw a poor replica of herself, longer and leaner, out in the woods. This is a nice little bit of foreshadowing towards an event later in the movie, but we're getting ahead of ourselves there. We soon learn that Ciara has been in the forest for 85 months, but Madeline has been here a lot longer, more than anybody else. Daniel has only been here 8 months, but Madeline explains some of the rules here, including you don't turn your back to the mirror, you don't open the door after dark, do not go near the burrows, and always stay in the light. The reason for these rules stems from the Watchers themselves, who wanted to mimic the humans but could only do so in a contained environment. They wanted to see the humans in their natural habitat, and by staying in the light and keeping their faces to the mirror, the Watchers could essentially mimic them a lot more effectively. The inclusion of a mirror and the shots we see of the characters next to said mirror is a great visual cue hinting at what's happening in the movie with the changelings. We later learn in the movie that the professor was here studying the Watchers for a long time. There's a bunker under the coop, and it includes TVs, computers and beds. Apparently his experiment in the fortress was called Wonderland. The professor knows about the Watchers and knows they're mastering his appearance and mannerisms. The professor fed different construction workers to the Watchers while the bunker was actually being built. He wanted to try and craft the power of duplication and capture one of the Watchers to do experiments. The final video from the professor marks 300 days inside the forest, but by this point he's repulsed by his own appearance as he's turned power mad. He tells those watching to destroy everything at his office, and in order to get out, they need to follow the birds and find a boat. Mina's desire to rule break stems from her history, which we learn about in a flashback sequence. A nasty car accident saw Mina, her sister Lucy, and mother hit by an onrushing lorry. However, it occurred because Mina was messing about with the window and distracted her mother, who took her eyes off the road. At this point, we're not aware that Mina's sister Lucy actually survived, but later in the movie we learn that she did. As the group escape and make it to the boat, Daniel is killed by one of the Watchers, who takes on the form of John, Ciara's missing husband we saw earlier in the movie. All the changelings stand and watch as they ride out in their boat. Mina heads to the university and checks out the professor's work. His paper is called The Halfling Dilemma, which details about the Fae and what they were like before becoming feral beasts. There are scrolls that confirm that they lived among us as friends and as lovers. Those born from human and Fae became halflings and could replicate. They could even take on the form of the deceased. This is what drove the professor's research. He was clearly trying to bring back someone deceased and doing so through those Watchers in the forest. As we soon find out in the final twist, Madeline and the professor were actually lovers and partners. However, Madeline died back in 2001 and is even an obituary entry for her. This explains why Madeline was in the forest all this time and didn't leave. She couldn't. The professor's video of a changeling down in the bunker with him could well have taken on Madeline's form and stayed here all this time. Madeline is clearly different to the other Watchers as she's part human. This explains why she can walk around in sunlight and also fleshes out that earlier quip about her being around a lot longer than everyone else and knowing about the Watcher rules. Finally, that story about the changeling, which we mentioned earlier, is probably true, but could also show when the Watcher started to mimic the real Madeline. When we find out Madeline is a Watcher, Mina shows up to confront her. However, she knocks out Ciara and assaults Mina. Madeline explains that she was cast out by the Watchers for her ability to withstand daylight, so she's been stuck on her own. Mina tries to talk her around, empathising with her plight. She doesn't want Madeline to be afraid. She explains that Madeline is a hybrid human fairy with the power to cast out hatred in exchange for humanity. Madeline takes the words to heart, smashes a glass and takes off. Before she does, she turns and says, "I hope you're right, Mina." With Madeline gone, Mina makes up with her sister. She explains everything to Lucy, and Mina points out how she thinks Madeline is watching over her, like a guardian angel of sorts. This is a nice way of paying homage to the past, where Fae and human used to get along, and as the camera pans down, the final shot in the movie shows this little girl watching outside, and that is where the Watchers comes to an end. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.